Sometimes the truth has a funny way of slipping out when you least expect it. And for Robyn Brown, that moment came during what should have been a routine confessional about Kody's so-called apology tour. But instead of offering her usual sympathetic support for her husband, Robyn delivered something far more explosive. She handed fans the receipts they've been waiting years to collect. The clip spread like wildfire across social media platforms within hours of the episode airing. Fans who had grown accustomed to Robyn's carefully crafted responses suddenly found themselves watching her contradict years of denials in real time, and the internet absolutely lost its collective mind. In the footage, Robyn describes witnessing a painful pattern throughout her religious upbringing. She talks about seeing men with multiple wives where one woman would be completely cast aside, unloved, unconsidered, not taken care of. She speaks about it with such familiarity, such detailed recollection that viewers immediately recognized what they were hearing. This was not new information to Robyn Brown. This was something she had clearly discussed before. The problem is that Robyn has spent years denying she ever shared such stories with anyone in the family. When Christine accused her of using exactly this kind of example to convince Meri to divorce Kody, Robyn shut it down completely. She claimed she would never say something like that. She insisted Christine was making things up or misremembering. But now here she was, on camera, doing the very thing she swore she never does. Fans immediately began pulling old clips and placing them side by side with this new confession. The comparison was damning. On one hand, you have Robyn adamantly denying any knowledge of such situations in her church background. On the other hand, you have Robyn casually describing these exact scenarios as something she witnessed all the time growing up. The hashtag started trending within the hour. Longtime viewers who had always suspected Robyn of being less than truthful finally felt vindicated. Those who had given her the benefit of the doubt found themselves questioning everything she had ever said on the show. And those who had defended her over the years suddenly went very, very quiet. What makes this particular moment so devastating is not just the contradiction itself. It is the casual nature of how it happened. Robyn was not cornered. She was not pressed by producers or challenged by another wife. She simply started talking, and the truth came tumbling out as if she had forgotten the elaborate web of denials she had constructed over the past decade. This is the clip that changes the entire narrative around Robyn Brown. This is the moment fans point to when they say they always knew something was not right. And this is only the beginning of what promises to be a complete unraveling of the careful image Robyn has spent 18 seasons building. But to truly understand why this footage is so explosive, we need to go back to the original accusation that started it all. The roots of this scandal stretch back years to a moment that seemed almost throwaway at the time, but has since become one of the most contested claims in Sister Wives history. Christine made an accusation that many dismissed as bitterness from a departing wife, but this new footage suggests she was telling the truth all along. According to Christine, Robyn played a pivotal role in convincing Meri to legally divorce Kody. The purpose was supposedly to allow Kody to legally marry Robyn so he could adopt her 3 children from her previous marriage. But it was the method Robyn allegedly used that raised eyebrows. Christine claimed Robyn told Meri a story about another family in their church where the exact same situation had occurred. In that story, according to Christine, a first wife had agreed to divorce her husband so he could legally marry another wife. The arrangement supposedly worked out beautifully for everyone involved. It was presented as a success story, a roadmap for how Meri could make the same sacrifice and feel good about it. When this accusation surfaced, Robyn did not hesitate to shut it down. She denied ever saying such a thing. She insisted she would never manipulate Meri or anyone else with stories from their religious community. She painted Christine as someone who was either confused or deliberately misrepresenting what had happened during those private conversations. The denial was emphatic. Robyn did not leave any room for interpretation. She made it absolutely clear that using examples from church families to influence major family decisions was simply not something she did. Period. End of story. And for a while, the matter seemed settled. Viewers were left to decide for themselves who they believed. Some sided with Christine, sensing that her accusation carried the weight of lived experience. Others gave Robyn the benefit of the doubt, accepting her denial at face value. But doubt lingered in the minds of many fans. Something about Robyn's response felt rehearsed, too polished, too prepared for a question that supposedly caught her off guard. Those who had watched the family dynamics unfold over nearly 2 decades recognized a pattern in how Robyn handled accusations. She never simply denied things. She denied them while simultaneously making the the accuser look unreasonable for even suggesting such a thing. Christine left that exchange looking like the villain in many viewers' eyes. She was positioned as the bitter ex who was making up stories to damage Robyn's reputation. The narrative shifted away from whether the accusation was true and toward whether Christine was being fair. It was a masterful deflection, and it worked for years. But the universe has a way of balancing the scales, and this new footage does exactly that. Because Robyn did not just casually mention seeing similar situations in her church background. She described them in detail, with the comfort of someone who has told this story many times before. The very story she swore she never tells. Let us break down exactly what Robyn said in this now viral clip, because the devil is truly in the details. Every word she chose, every phrase she constructed, reveals far more than she likely intended. And fans who have studied this family for years immediately recognize the significance of what they were hearing. Robyn described seeing situations in her church where a man would have multiple wives, and one of those wives would be, in her words, absolutely unloved. She went on to say this woman would be completely not being considered, not loved, and not taken care of. She then delivered the kicker with what appeared to be genuine conviction, and that is wrong. On the surface, it sounds like a compassionate observation, a woman reflecting on the painful realities she witnessed growing up in a polygamous community. But when you examine the specific language she used, a different picture emerges entirely. Notice how Robyn did not simply say unloved. She said absolutely unloved. That qualifier is doing an enormous amount of heavy lifting in her statement. By adding the word absolutely, she creates a threshold that must be met before the situation becomes problematic. A woman cannot simply feel unloved or be treated as less than. She must be absolutely, completely, totally unloved for it to count as wrong. This is the escape hatch Robyn built for herself and for Kody. If a wife is only somewhat neglected, only partially ignored, only occasionally dismissed, then by Robyn's own definition, nothing wrong has occurred. The bar has been set so impossibly high that almost any behavior can be excused. As long as Kody showed some affection at some point, as long as he acknowledged his other wives existed even occasionally, then he cannot be accused of absolutely not loving them. It is a linguistic trick that would make any defense attorney proud. Fans also noticed what Robyn conspicuously avoided saying. She never once mentioned the word equal. She did not describe situations where wives were treated unequally or where resources were distributed unfairly. She stayed far away from any language that might apply to her own family's dynamics. Because if she had said it is wrong when a husband does not treat his wives equally, she would have been describing Kody's behavior with perfect accuracy. And that was clearly not the point of her little speech. Instead, she focused entirely on the emotional component, and even then, only the most extreme version of it. This allowed her to appear sympathetic to struggling sister wives, while simultaneously protecting Kody from any accountability for how he treated Mary, Janelle, and Christine. The words were chosen with surgical precision, and yet they still managed to expose her, because regardless of how carefully she framed her statement, she confirmed the one thing she had spent years denying. She absolutely does reference situations from her church upbringing when discussing plural marriage dynamics. Christine was right all along. Robyn Brown has always had a gift for words. She knows how to frame a narrative, how to position herself as the victim, and how to make accusations disappear into a fog of carefully constructed confusion. But this clip pulled back the curtain on her techniques in a way that even casual viewers could not ignore. Throughout the confession, Robyn performed a delicate balancing act. She needed to appear sympathetic to women who suffer in plural marriages while simultaneously protecting her husband from any suggestion that he caused similar suffering. And she managed to do both by controlling the exact terms of the conversation. When she described these unloved wives from her church, she painted a picture of total abandonment. These were women who received nothing, no consideration, no care, no love whatsoever. By presenting such an extreme scenario, Robyn ensured that anything less severe would pale in comparison. This is manipulation at its finest. She set the standard so impossibly high that Kody's actual behavior could never meet it. Sure, he may have neglected Janelle for months at a time. Sure, he may have told Christine he was never attracted to her. Sure, he may have emotionally abandoned Mary for the better part of a decade, but did he absolutely not love them? Well, that is a different question entirely, is it not? The strategy allows Robyn to acknowledge that bad things happen in plural marriages without ever admitting that bad things happened in her plural marriage. She can shake her head sadly at the thought of neglected sister wives while looking directly at 3 neglected sister wives and seeing nothing wrong. wrong. Fans have long suspected this kind of mental gymnastics from Robyn, but witnessing it laid bare in a single confessional was something else entirely. The mask did not just slip, it fell off completely and shattered on the floor. What makes this even more insidious is how Robyn positioned herself as an authority on the subject. By sharing her observations from church, she established credibility. She presented herself as someone who understands the struggles of plural marriage, who has seen the damage it can cause, who recognizes when things have gone wrong. But that credibility only flows in one direction. She uses it to comment on other families while refusing to apply the same standards to her own. She can identify mistreatment when it happens to strangers, but remains completely blind when it happens under her own roof. This selective vision is not accidental, it is a survival mechanism that has allowed Robyn to maintain her position as Kody's favored wife while publicly expressing sympathy for the women he cast aside. She gets to have it both ways: the compassionate sister wife who understands the pain, and the sole beneficiary of her husband's attention and resources. The language she uses is not sloppy or accidental. Every word serves a purpose. Every qualifier creates distance. Every omission protects the guilty. And now the whole world can see it. Body language experts have long said that the eyes reveal what words try to hide. And during this now infamous confessional, Robyn's eyes were telling a story completely different from the one coming out of her mouth. Sharp-eyed viewers noticed it immediately. Something was off. Something did not match. As Robyn recounted her experiences witnessing unloved wives in her church, her eyes darted around the room. They moved left, they moved right, they looked up, they looked down. They landed everywhere except straight ahead, with the confidence of someone sharing a genuine memory. This is significant. When people recall authentic experiences, their gaze tends to remain relatively steady. They are accessing real memories stored in their minds, and the process feels natural. But when someone is constructing a narrative in real time, when they are searching for the right words to build a story that serves a specific purpose, the eyes betray them. They search, they scan, they hunt for the next piece of the puzzle. Robyn's eyes were hunting throughout that entire confessional. Viewers who have watched this family for years know what Robyn looks like when she is being genuine. They have seen her cry real tears over her children. They have witnessed authentic moments of frustration and joy. And they have also learned to recognize when she shifts into performance mode. The difference is stark once you know what to look for. In this clip, Robyn was performing. She was not simply sharing a memory from her past. She was carefully constructing a narrative designed to position herself as someone who recognizes and condemns the mistreatment of sister wives. But the construction was visible in her body language, in the way her eyes searched for what to say next, rather than simply remembering what had happened. Some fans went even further in their analysis. They noted how Robyn's speech patterns changed during this segment. Her usual confident delivery gave way to something more halting, more considered. She paused in unusual places. She repeated certain phrases as if buying time to formulate her next point. These are not the characteristics of someone sharing a painful but genuine observation about their upbringing. These are the characteristics of someone managing a narrative in real time. Someone aware that every word matters and that one wrong phrase could expose the very thing they are trying to hide. The irony is that Robyn's careful performance ultimately betrayed her more than a straightforward confession ever could have. By trying so hard to control the narrative, she revealed just how much she had to hide. By searching for her words so visibly, she showed viewers that this was not an organic memory, but a constructed story. And perhaps most damning of all, her discomfort suggested she knew exactly what she was doing. She knew she was contradicting her previous denials. She knew she was exposing herself, and in that knowledge, her body rebelled against the lies her mouth was telling. The eyes never lie, even when everything else does. Here is where the whole situation crosses from frustrating into genuinely infuriating. Robyn sat there describing the tragedy of an unloved sister wife with such apparent concern, such heartfelt sympathy. She spoke about women not being considered, not being cared for, not receiving the love and attention they deserved from their shared husband. She called it wrong, she called it devastating, and somehow, impossibly, she failed to recognize that she was describing Mary, Janelle, and Christine, the three women who spent decades in the same family as Robyn. The three women who watched their husbands slowly drift away from them and toward his fourth wife. The three women who voiced their concerns, their pain, their desperation on camera for years, while Robyn sat in her mansion collecting the lion's share of Kody's time, attention, and financial resources. Robyn described the devastation of a woman trying to sit there and be in a marriage where she is sharing her husband and going through the whole process of sharing resources and sharing his love and time and attention. She acknowledged how painful that is. She called it wrong when that woman is not considered, not loved, not taken care of. But who exactly does Robyn think she is describing? describing. Mary spent years isolated in a loveless marriage, desperate for any scrap of affection from a husband who openly admitted he could not stand being around her. She was not absolutely unloved in Robyn's careful definition, but she was certainly close enough that any reasonable person could see the devastation written across her face season after season. Janelle watched her husband ignore her children, dismiss her contributions to the family, and ultimately tell the world he was never really in love with her. She sat through holidays alone. She went months without meaningful contact. She was not absolutely not considered, but the consideration she received was so minimal it might as well have been nothing. Christine heard directly from Kody's mouth that he was never attracted to her. She begged for intimacy, for connection, for basic acknowledgement that she mattered. She left the marriage broken and exhausted, finally recognizing that staying meant accepting a life of perpetual neglect. 3 women, 3 decades of service to this family, 3 stories of abandonment that mirror exactly what Robyn claims to find so wrong in other families. But Robyn cannot see it. Or perhaps more accurately, Robyn chooses not to see it. Because acknowledging that Mary, Janelle, and Christine experienced the very devastation she described would require Robyn to confront an uncomfortable truth. It would mean admitting that she benefited from their suffering. It would mean recognizing that while they were being neglected, she was receiving everything they were denied, and that is a mirror Robyn Brown is simply not willing to look into. She would rather pretend the tragedy exists only in abstract church memories than face the living, breathing evidence of that tragedy standing right beside her. This viral clip did not happen in isolation. It emerged during what Kody has been calling his apology tour, a supposed effort to make amends with his ex-wives for years of terrible behavior. And the timing reveals something critical about how Kody and Robyn operate as a unit. When Kody first announced his plan to apologize to Janelle, Christine, and Mary, Robyn's response was telling. She questioned what exactly he was apologizing for. She seemed genuinely confused about what he could possibly need to make right. This reaction alone speaks volumes about how disconnected Robyn remains from the pain her sister wives experienced. But it was during this conversation that Robyn launched into her speech about unloved wives in the church. And suddenly the purpose became crystal clear. She was not sharing a genuine memory. She was establishing a defense. She was preemptively setting the bar for what constitutes mistreatment so high that Kody's actual behavior could never meet it. Think about the strategy at play here. Kody is about to embark on a public apology tour that will be filmed and broadcast to millions. The risk is that he might actually have to take accountability for something real. The risk is that viewers might finally see him admit to the years of neglect and emotional abuse his former wives endured. So what does Robyn do? She reframes the entire conversation around absolute lovelessness. She establishes that the only real problem in plural marriages is when a husband completely abandons a wife. Anything less than that, well, that is just normal plural marriage struggles. Nothing to apologize for, nothing to see here. This coordinated narrative management is not new for Kody and Robyn. They have spent years presenting a united front, telling the same stories, using the same justifications. When Kody claims he was actually a good husband who just dealt with difficult wives, Robyn nods along. When Robyn suggests the other women were the real problem, Kody amplifies that message. They function as a team, and their teamwork is never more visible than when they are trying to rehabilitate their public image. The apology tour itself has been widely criticized as performative and hollow. Kody arrives with a prepared list of things to apologize for, controlling the conversation before it even begins. He frames his cruelty as a byproduct of his own pain, asking for sympathy while supposedly offering remorse. He suggests that his anger was actually a compliment because it proved how much he cared. And through it all, Robyn provides the supporting narrative. She establishes the theoretical framework that excuses his behavior. She sets the definitions that let him off the hook. She plays her part perfectly, as she always has. This is not two people independently arriving at similar conclusions. This is a coordinated campaign designed to rewrite history, and Robyn's viral confession is simply one piece of that larger puzzle. The apology tour was never about genuine reconciliation. It was always about reputation management. The Sister Wives fandom has never been one to let things slide. These viewers have spent nearly 2 decades analyzing every episode, cataloging every contradiction, and building an archive of receipts that would make any investigative journalist proud. So when this clip started circulating, they got to work immediately. Within hours of the episode airing, fans had compiled side-by-side video comparisons that laid bare the contradiction. On one side of the screen, Robyn vehemently denying she ever shared stories from her church background to influence family decisions. On the other side, Robyn casually describing exactly those kinds of stories as something she witnessed all the time. The juxtaposition was devastating. Reddit threads exploded with activity. Longtime posters who had argued for years that Robyn was not being truthful finally felt vindicated. They pulled timestamps from old episodes, they transcribed relevant confessionals, they cross-referenced statements Robyn had made across multiple seasons to demonstrate this was not an isolated slip, but part of a consistent pattern. Twitter and TikTok were not far behind. Short clips of the contradiction racked up millions of views within days. Content creators who cover the show devoted entire videos to analyzing what Robyn said and what it means for her credibility. The hashtags kept trending as more and more people discovered the footage and added their own commentary. What struck many observers was how unified the response became. This was not a case of divided opinions or fans taking different sides. The reaction was nearly universal. People who had defended Robyn for years suddenly found themselves unable to explain away what they had witnessed. The evidence was simply too clear, too direct, too impossible to spin. Some fans went further, compiling comprehensive timelines of every denial Robyn had made over the years, and comparing them to statements that contradicted those denials. The result was a damning document that painted a picture of systematic dishonesty stretching back to the earliest seasons of the show. Others focused on the reaction from the other wives. They analyzed how Christine responded when her original accusation was dismissed. They noted the pain in her eyes when Robyn called her a liar, and they celebrated that Christine was finally being proven right after years of having her credibility questioned. The fan community also began revisiting other contested moments in the show's history. If Robyn lied about this, what else might she have misrepresented? Old theories that had been dismissed as speculation suddenly seemed worth re-examining. Old accusations that had been waved away now carried new weight. This is the power of a dedicated fan base, armed with receipts and a long memory. Robyn may have thought her words would disappear into the endless stream of reality television content. She may have believed nobody would notice the contradiction or connect it to previous denials. She underestimated her audience, and now the evidence lives forever on the internet, compiled and cataloged and ready to be referenced whenever anyone questions whether Robyn Brown tells the truth. There is a saying that once trust is broken, it becomes nearly impossible to rebuild. And for Robyn Brown, this viral moment may represent the final crack in a foundation that has been crumbling for years. Because this is not just about one lie, this is about what that lie reveals regarding everything else she has ever said. When someone is caught in a clear, undeniable contradiction, it opens the door to questioning every other statement they have made. Fans are now revisiting years of Robyn's confessionals, her reactions, her denials, and her explanations with fresh eyes. And what they are finding is deeply troubling. Remember when Robyn claimed she never wanted to be the legal wife? This contradiction makes that denial seem far less credible. Remember when she insisted she never tried to come between Kody and his other wives? That claim now carries the stench of deception. Remember when she tearfully proclaimed that she wanted the family to work and never understood why the other women were so hostile toward her? Those tears look a lot more like performance than genuine emotion in light of this exposure. The problem with being caught in one lie is that it contaminates everything. Viewers can no longer take anything Robyn says at face value. Every statement must now be filtered through the understanding that this is a woman who will deny something completely, even when she knows it to be true. This credibility collapse extends beyond just the audience. It affects how people perceive the family dynamics as a whole. For years, disputes between Robyn and the other wives came down to competing narratives. She said one thing, they said another. Viewers had to decide who to believe. But now that calculus has shifted dramatically. When Christine makes an accusation against Robyn, the evidence suggests Christine is probably telling the truth. When Janelle expresses frustration with how events were characterized, her version suddenly seems more reliable. When Mary hints at manipulation behind the scenes, those hints take on new significance. Robyn spent years positioning herself as the reasonable one, the peacemaker, the wife who just wanted everyone to get along. She cultivated an image of innocence that allowed her to deflect criticism and redirect blame toward the other women. That image has now been shattered beyond repair. The implications ripple outward in every direction. Business relationships may suffer as brands reconsider partnerships with someone whose credibility has been so publicly destroyed. Future seasons of the show will be viewed through the lens of this contradiction. Even her own children may eventually have to reckon with the disconnect between who their mother presents herself to be and who she actually is. Credibility is currency in the world of reality television, and Robyn just declared bankruptcy. She may continue to deny, deflect, and spin. That is what she has always done. But the audience is no longer buying what she is selling. The receipts are in, the evidence is clear, and the verdict from the court of public opinion is absolutely devastating. If Robyn Brown thought this storm would blow over quickly, she is in for a rude awakening. The internet never forgets, and the Sister Wives fandom never forgives. This viral moment is not the end of the scrutiny, it is only the beginning. And the implications for the current season and beyond are enormous. TLC now faces an interesting dilemma. Do they address the contradiction directly in upcoming episodes? Do they give Robyn a platform to attempt damage control? Or do they simply let the footage speak for itself and allow viewers to draw their own conclusions? Whatever the network decides, they cannot put this genie back in the bottle. The clip exists, the comparisons exist, the evidence is permanently etched into the digital landscape. For Robyn personally, the path forward is treacherous. She has built her entire persona around being the misunderstood wife who just wanted peace. She positioned herself as the victim of jealous sister wives who could not accept her place in the family. That narrative required people to believe her denials, to trust her version of events, to give her the benefit of the doubt. That benefit has been permanently revoked. Every future confessional Robyn delivers will be viewed with suspicion. Every explanation she offers will be picked apart for inconsistencies. Every tear she sheds will be questioned as potentially manufactured. She has lost the one thing that made her carefully constructed image work. She has lost believability. The ripple effects within the family could be equally significant. Christine has been vindicated in a very public way. Her accusation, dismissed for years as bitter exaggeration, has now been proven accurate. That validation may embolden her to share even more about what really happened behind closed doors, and it may encourage Janelle and Mary to do the same. Kody, meanwhile, finds himself yoked to a wife whose credibility has collapsed. His own apology tour was already being criticized as hollow and performative. Now it is further undermined by association with Robyn's exposed dishonesty. The two of them built their defense together, and that defense has just crumbled. Fans are already speculating about what other revelations might emerge as the season continues. If this contradiction slipped out during a routine confessional, what else might surface? What other carefully guarded secrets might tumble into the light when Robyn least expects it? The anticipation is building with every passing episode. What we witnessed was not just a single moment of exposure. It was the beginning of a complete narrative collapse. The story Robyn has been telling for 18 seasons simply cannot hold together anymore. Too many pieces have fallen away, too many contradictions have emerged, too many people are now paying attention. The unraveling has begun, and there is no stopping it now. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you absolutely will not want to miss what is coming next.